Inside the Huddle with Sky Sports.
Yes, hello, welcome to Inside the Huddle, coming to you from a hotel room in Detroit. I am Neil Reynolds, joined as ever on a Thursday by Phoebe Schechter. Phoebe, there's a Christmas song on there, but it's been cold outside. Well, it is in Detroit, but luckily I'm inside at the moment. How are you?
I'm great. I mean, your trip looks incredible. All the different places you've been. How did you like M&T Stadium?
I did like it a lot. Yeah, it was good. Although I was with the tour group and we were walking around, and the tour guide was talking about the Ray Lewis dance and how how we did it when he came out the tunnel, and that she did it and she gave an example. And so
Mhm.
I just jokingly said, "Oh yeah, I remember actually being on stage with Ray when the whole crowd started chanting that I had to do the Ray Lewis dance, and I did it in front of Ray." 10 seconds 10 seconds later, somehow I'm doing the Ray Lewis dance in M&T Bank Stadium. So
Oh my
I
gosh, how iconic.
the last time I ever share stories with anyone. So, but look, we're going to talk week 14, things we noticed, what's on our radar. Before we start, I'm going to give a little promotion because the new season, the in-season Hard Knocks, the AFC North, we have it on Sky Sports NFL. So it debuts tonight, Thursday, at 9 p.m. It repeats at 11 p.m. Phoebe, that's just always a great look. I don't know how much the teams love it, but they certainly sign up for it. And yeah, for fans, what access?
Oh, it's incredible. And it just builds that relationship with fans and the players and the coaches, gives such great insight, especially the in-season ones. I mean, this is such a unique perspective. And in this division, which is incredible and so competitive, we're so lucky to have this inside access. So yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I've already got it lined up for tonight.
Yeah, I can't wait for when they probably be a few episodes down, but when they get to the Cleveland Pittsburgh snow game, I can just
Yes.
imagine that's going to be incredible stuff. So yeah, we'll do things we noticed. We'll make our picks. You're two up ahead of me. We'll get to that in a second. But things we noticed, I think we both would have Azeez Al-Shaair, wouldn't we, on our list, and suspended for 3 games by the NFL after the hit on Trevor Lawrence, which has effectively ended Trevor's season. Concussion, shoulder injury, so he's done for the year. And Al-Shaair apologized. Nick Caserio, the general manager of the Texans, said he's been painted as a villain, and now Al-Shaair has said, if you want me to be your villain, I'll be your villain. He's gone back to social media. This feels, I don't know him, but this feels sad because by all accounts, he's a really good guy off the field as well. So what do you make of all this?
Yeah, and I think my favorite part about, favorite in the sense of right after the game, they had the coaches doing their interviews, and I really liked what Doug Peterson had to say. Obviously, being there pretty much representing Trevor Lawrence, he goes, "I know D'Amico Ryans. I know they don't coach him like that. I know that, you know, it's in the heat of the moment, and that it was not an intentional act." And I think that was really nice immediately after the game, and obviously D'Amico Ryans kind of having a similar conversation. Um, I it's so hard, and so many people have had opinions on this. I mean, even Tom Brady coming forth and talking about in the moment, did Trevor Lawrence slide too late? Is this something that we're kind of opening ourselves up to as we're designing more quarterback specific run plays? You are putting your quarterbacks in danger. And then as a defender, how do you adjust that? Right. I think it's the fact he kind of came in with his forearm, of course, that I don't know how in the moment, in the momentum, you're supposed to change your trajectory because in slow motion, it looks like you could just make any move. But I think it's a really kind of polarizing situation. And ultimately, the fact ending Trevor Lawrence's
Mm.
season is really tough.
So Phoebe, I saw this in the studio ahead of you and Jason, and it angered me at first glance. But then I think to your point, the speed, when you watch it full speed, it was so hard to pull out of that. I think he has to try to pull out of it, but I think we have to respect that it's difficult on both sides. And it shouldn't become political, which is silly on social media. And I think that's where this has gone to a much darker place.
I agree. And these are humans, these are athletes. I think even with Trevor Lawrence, how did the concussion, it probably was also a bit of a business decision. You're not in a winning season. he's had shoulder injuries throughout the season. Let's just take advantage of this time, get him into surgery quicker. I don't necessarily think that's all on Azeez. I just think that that's the problem we have with the internet and media, is that everybody gets an opinion on this, and it's been replayed 20 million times, and this poor guy is getting it from everybody. So I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. I just think that we need to be really mindful of how we treat others ultimately. And if we were in that position, how would we feel?
Absolutely. Let's talk about what's on our radar. So these are things we're looking at maybe this weekend, over the next few weekends. Phoebe, what have you got for us?
So I have two. I'll try and keep one briefer than the other. But ultimately, one, Micah Hyde is back in Buffalo. And I think this is important for two reasons. One, he is a complete leader on this team, and just bringing him back, even if it's not necessarily from a playing perspective, having him there almost as a player coach, I think says a lot. But even more than that, I think it goes to show where the Bills think they are going, that they're bringing him in because they want to give him that opportunity to potentially get a ring because of all he's done for the organization. So that for me just gives the trajectory of where I feel they think they're going. And the other thing is really about the Lions. And I know a team we're going to talk about in just a little bit, but they have 18 players on injured reserve,
Yeah.
13 of them defensive players. Two more went out last week in terms of Malcolm Rodriguez, Mekhi Wingo, and then three others are out in the game Thursday night. And I'm starting to get a little bit worried about what this could mean in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. I think if you remember in the studio last week, I said we'd maybe have overlooked their injuries because it's not Jared Goff, it's not Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's not the two running backs, but they're mounting up. So we'll talk about that because they're paying Packers this evening. Two for me, Justin Tucker in action from John Harbaugh. So I think that's Tucker there again for another week, which again, I don't necessarily hate. You want to give him as much time, but how much time do you give Baltimore's kicker who's missed 10 kicks this season? And I noticed Caleb Williams was outspoken about not liking all the changes in Chicago, not necessarily in support of Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus, but more about a young quarterback having to go through so much change so early.
It's a lot. You think in the past months how much change he's had to go through, from Shane Waldron leaving to Thomas Brown taking over as offensive coordinator to then Thomas Brown taking over as interim head coach. You know, it's like you start to go and then you're stopped again and again and stopped again. And I can't imagine how frustrated he must feel inside that building. We talk so much about how key it is to have a head coach and offensive coordinator paired with these young quarterbacks, and you just hope it doesn't tar this year so much for him that it affects him going forwards.
Do you think John Harbaugh's right to stick with Justin Tucker, given his pedigree over the years?
There is an element of respect. There has to be. But if it continues on this trajectory, because it's not just down to Justin Tucker in that game, right? And I know we're talking about multitude of games that he's had missed field goals. You know, even Lamar Jackson saying, hey, there were opportunities. I should have run the ball. I didn't do the right thing. So it's everything that leads up to having to kick a field goal. But I do think if they're thinking they're going to have another big playoff run, they're going to have to make an adjustment because you cannot rely on him in those key moments, which is really quite heartbreaking to say. And it's not like you're going to have two kickers on your team.
No, it's a jarring sentence when you say it, isn't it? You can't rely on Justin Tucker. We haven't said that. We've never said that. Right, let's get to our picks for week 14. We're gonna we'll pick the Thursday night game this week because if I add a game in, I've got a chance to catch you up because you're 2 ahead. But also it might be game of the week. Green Bay Packers at Detroit Lions. Detroit can clinch a playoff berth with a win. Phoebe, to your point about the injuries, they're kind of mounting on defense, but also on offense, their points. Maybe they set such a high bar. They've scored 24 and 23 in their last 2 games. So let's start with the Lions, who've been sensational. It's hard to kind of go against them, but they're up against it now with some of these injuries.
They are, and it's, you know, losing Malcolm Rodriguez again. It just gives Green Bay that opportunity of where do we attack, you know, and that's an easy one in the middle of the field like that. Lions are also missing Taylor Decker again, 3 of the 5 games. There's just so many things mounting up. I still have more faith in the Lions being able to get it done because I don't trust the Packers pass rush right now. I feel like they've not so many people thought coming into this year, the Packers pass rush and their defense were going to be phenomenal. And it's really not lived up to their expectations. I think Xavier McKinney's been, the shining star, absolutely. But I definitely have more faith in the Lions being able to take this win home. What do you think?
So I think Jordan Love's had 2 clean games. Jordan Love had a really good game in Detroit on Thanksgiving Day last year. So I'm going to be there. I want to enjoy the party, the atmosphere. I think it'll be fantastic. And I think Green Bay are going to spoil the party. I'm picking Green Bay to get the job done here in Detroit. Who are you? You're
Oh, I
going with?
like this. I'm gonna go with the Lions, but I do love this. I mean, you get to see it live. I can't wait to hear all about it on Sunday because you are gonna have the best time no matter what.
Right, exactly. It's going to be a great time. So that's Green Bay and Detroit Thursday night football. Let's move on to Sunday then on Sky. We're on air at 5 o'clock. First game kicks off at 6, and that's Atlanta at Minnesota. So let's start with the Vikings. They really had to work hard, Phoebe, in the last month to beat Jacksonville, and then the last 2 weeks to beat Chicago and Arizona. But they've got 10 wins with the quarterback they weren't expecting to go into the season with, which is to be commended.
It is. I mean, what KOC has done has been terrific from a head coaching perspective and how he's gotten Sam Darnold. The fact that they brought in Daniel Jones, he is becoming the quarterback whisperer, essentially kind of taking the people that necessarily others didn't want and just showing how talented they are. And I completely commend what they've done, especially considering they've not had their starting left tackle in Christian Darrisaw. I mean,
Yeah.
he is a superstar for them. They brought in Cam Little from from the
Yeah.
Jags, and
Mm.
he's not really done the job for them. I'd say the biggest frustrations with the Vikings right now is their run game hasn't been consistent, and it's not what we thought it would be considering who you have at running back.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones has had a fumble in each of the last 3 games. So that's crept in. Yes, he had the winning touchdown last week, but you kind of, once we get to see big games at the end of the year, you worry if that sort of thing could hurt a team. Atlanta have lost 3 in a row. Since week 10, they've averaged 12 points per game. They're a very, very difficult team to work out. Kirk Cousins had 4 interceptions last week against the Chargers, no touchdowns. This is a frustrating team who've come back to the pack in the NFC South now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to take the NFC South, looking at what they had,
Yeah.
bringing in new offensive coordinator, all the weapons they had. It's been frustrating to watch him. And because, you and I were watching the game last week and it was like everything was short, everything was labored. There was no power behind his throws, which makes you immediately think, okay, what about his feet? What is he doing? What is he not doing?
Yeah.
And then alternatively on the other side, there is a non-existent Atlanta pass rush. So if they're not getting after your opponent's quarterback, you're never going to have a chance on offense to put the points up.
So we'll take people behind the scenes with we're a weekly production meeting on Sky, and we talk about things we're going to talk about in our pregame. And we said, Kirk, he was good earlier in the season. Last week was really bad. Bijan Robinson's a star. And then we were anything on defense, and it was tumbleweeds. We did need, obviously, there are some players that are going to make some plays, but for the most part, they don't grab your attention there. They still don't have that difference-making edge rusher.
No, and you think they would have been able to, they bring in Matthew Judon. They've not really been able to use him in an impactful way. It sounded like everything they were doing was so exciting in the off season, and nothing has actually come to fruition. I mean, they're just as poor pass rush as they have in the past few years, and it's a glaring issue that they've had. So you're like, come on, guys, just fix the problem. Bring in people to fix the problem, or look at your coaching staff to say, hey, what are we doing here?
They chose to ignore pass rush in the draft early on. They could have gone Jared Verse. Maybe he's having a great season with the Rams. And they got Michael Penix Jr., a quarterback. Is Kirk looking over his shoulder or not yet?
I mean, I think he might be at this point because of the all those interceptions he's had, if he's not able to athletically kind of pull things together, there's
Really.
no way that he's not going to have him kind of on his shoulder, who he has to see every day, work with every day. He sees him in practice. And that's the thing is, if I'm the starting quarterback, I'm watching this young buck stepping up and doing a great job in practice, maybe getting some other reps that I would be taking. I would definitely be a little bit on edge, but he's used to this. This is not Kirk's first rodeo.
No, you're absolutely. That is the biggest point. Kirk has been through this. He understands the business side of it. Minnesota's a tough place to get right if you're struggling on offense. I'm going Vikings. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Vikings too. I still think that they can pull it together collectively as opposed to the Falcons.
I need you to make a crazy pick. I
I
need you to
did last week, guys.
did not because I went stupid and picked the Dolphins to win in the cold, which hasn't happened since
I mean,
1958, I think.
the Raiders
Uh,
almost did it.
you were very, very close. I don't know what you'd have been like. You'd have been unbearable. What a touch on this game. It's not one of ours on Sky. Just quickly, Carolina at Philadelphia. So the Panthers are 3-9, the Eagles 10-2. All right, this looks like a simple win. Philly have won 8 in a row. They're loaded with stars. If we were picking this game, I would pick the Eagles to win. But the Panthers had 2 wins, New Orleans and New York, and 2 field goal losses in the last month. And the field goal losses were right at the end against the Chiefs and in overtime against Tampa Bay. So this is a tiny bit trickier than it appears on paper.
This is so exciting. I'm actually really excited for this game because Bryce Young is coming into his own. This team is figuring it out. Adam Thielen is bringing it back from his Vikings day. He is really becoming the glue. They're all playing it together. And I am so excited for them. Chuba Hubbard offers them so much. I think the biggest challenge here is you're going against one of the top ranked defenses in the league. So in some ways, I'm actually excited to see how Bryce Young does against this defense because this is a huge challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what impressed you most with the Eagles? Because obviously towards the end of that game against the Ravens, we were talking about how Saquon took over. But what was it that that stood out in that big win?
Yeah, I really do think it's the Eagles defense. And they shut down Derrick Henry. They didn't put Derrick Henry. We talk so much about Derrick Henry being your fourth quarter closer. He really didn't even play in the fourth quarter. And the way that they were just attacking him, the tackle by Cooper DeJean in the open space to Derrick Henry lifts him up rugby style. I mean, for me, that is a fearless team. They don't care who you are. They're coming downhill fast. Like that speaks to the identity of this defense right now. And obviously getting after Lamar Jackson a couple times, getting sacks against him. They didn't let him get out and run. I mean, that is what was so exciting about that game for me.
Yeah, I've written this a couple of times this week, and I'll say it quietly while I'm in Detroit. But I think everyone wants the Lions then this Cinderella season to go all the way to the Super Bowl. I think the Eagles can be the team that wreck those dreams. They look really good.
I do too. I do too. And I know we keep talking about the Lions injuries, but this Eagles defense are feeling healthy. They've been a silent person kind of throughout, and they've been there before. They know what that feels like. And that's my biggest concern for whoever makes it to the Super Bowl and potentially against the Chiefs team. Have you been there before? Can you outlast them? And this Eagles team they almost were doing it in the last Super Bowl where they met the Chiefs.
Right. Let's move on to our second game on Sunday is at 9:25. It's the Buffalo Bills who are 10-2 at the Los Angeles Rams who are 6-6. The Bills are division champions with 5 weeks to spare, but Phoebe, they've got bigger goals in mind, haven't they? They certainly look like well, I think they're the team to beat in the AFC. What do you think?
Yeah, I do too. But I keep coming back to the Chiefs, right? Because that's their kryptonite a little bit. And ultimately, when you get to the divisional round, the championship, you've got to be able to compete against the Chiefs. And I think they're in a place where they can. I look at the game this weekend against the Rams. A big test is, can they stop the run? You've got Kyron Williams, who's one of the top 5 running backs, just behind Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know. Can the Bills constantly stop the run? Now they've got linebacker Matt Milano back. They mixed him in a couple of reps in the snow game. I have a lot of faith in them. I think that they've got the puzzle pieces together. Offense is rolling. Their running back game is going great. So, yeah, but I'm still concerned. I think the Chiefs made people play differently.
The best thing Buffalo could have is somebody to take care of the Chiefs in the divisional round. So the Bills don't have to get them in the conference championships. To your point, they rushed for over 230 yards last week. We know Josh Allen's Josh Allen. The Rams have the offensive weapons they didn't score a point in the first half against the Saints last week. So they're really confusing. Then they got red hot. So they're either going to be dormant or dominant, the Rams. But even so, I don't know if they can keep pace with the Bills. What do you think?
No, I don't think they can.
Pick the Rams. Pick the Rams.
No, I'm going Bills for sure here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, but they are dangerous from that aspect, aren't they, sometimes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and looking at this game, Matthew Stafford could have one of his big days, and we've seen that arm he's got before. He can pick apart a defense, but uh, uh, Bill's team, they sometimes find these trap games where you think, all right, we've gotten our win of the division. Maybe we take our foot off the gas. How do you start planning out the next few games? Do you be conscious of people's rep counts? There's just
Right.
so many different considerations where you're thinking, all right, we got to get to the playoffs.
They do strike me as a team we talked about this with the Lions, where you can just see, and this happens with teams when they get on a really good roll. The Panthers were this way when they got to the Super Bowl in 2015. You can see a team that's having fun. So you see like the trick, the pass, the lateral back to Josh Allen for the touchdown. Josh Allen and Sean McDermott doing snow angels after the win against the 49ers. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? When you have a good vibe around a team, you just want to bottle that.
Yeah. Oh, and it's funny you say because Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean were with the Panthers in that 2015 run as well. So, it's I think for me a really telling thing is, Sean McDermott is quite a private person, and for him to publicly do a snow angel, he might have done that in private, but like you can see him really sharing his emotion and showing that you do just want to bottle. It's like this euphoria that you can't even describe, and everyone shows up to work every day and it's just absolute like elated and you wish you could hold on to it. I mean, that's what keeps people in these jobs, right? Because it doesn't matter the hours, but when you get to this moment, it's all for these moments here. And so it's
That's
very
what,
special to see.
yeah, that's what it's for. Absolutely. I just want to touch on another game we don't have on Sky, but it's a significant one because of the news that's come from around this team this week. So the Chicago Bears, they're 4-8, taking on the San Francisco 49ers. So as you have mentioned earlier, Phoebe, Thomas Brown is in as interim head coach. Christian McCaffrey, who, I mean, just what a lost season for him. He comes back from the Achilles and the calf injury, and then he has a PCL knee injury suffered against Buffalo. He's gone for the year. And the 49ers are almost out of time. I know that division's still... They're only 2 games back, but we keep saying that they're only 2 games back. They're only 1 game back, and they can't get they're on their knees here.
Yeah, they are. And to be honest, I thought it was a bit interesting that they even played CMC in that snow game, especially coming off of Achilles tendonitis, which in the cold is not going to be good. And you wonder if there's some sort of, like bouncing up the leg essentially where things become weaker because there's so much
Push harder on the snow, don't you? You have to push through. You're trying to push through the snow. You could see guys running, even going in motion. They were slipping. Surely you're like putting more pressure on everything, trying to grip and work your way through the snow.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see him out there as much as he was. I mean, I'm sure he wants to play ultimately, but it was definitely a concern coming into that game. And then obviously with that happening, Jordan Mason being out as well, they're really low on running backs. I don't even know who they've got left, to be honest with you. So, the 49ers, how do you rally yourself at this point? It was great to see the defense, to be honest, at a much higher level than they had been. Fred Warner was flying around in the snow, which is so impressive.
Yeah.
But I don't know who the 49ers are right now. And I think I don't see them being able to make any sort of playoff push here. And so as Coach Shanahan, how do you manage the team going forwards? Because you're not saying you want to rest people, but your guys are tired. Everybody in that building is tired.
They are a perfect example of why when twice in the last 5 years, you're up by 10 in the fourth quarter in a Super Bowl, you better seal the deal and win one of those because you never know when it's going to crash down and the window's slammed shut, whether that be through injuries. We don't know if this is a long-term demise. It might just be a 1-year thing where all the injuries came at once. But that's why you finished the Chiefs off when you're up by 10 last year.
You're so right. I mean, and they had every opportunity to do that. And that comes down to, are you able to focus through all 4 quarters? Are you able to, as a play caller, hey, we need to get points here. How am I managing the game? Understanding where you are in that situation, understanding who your opponents are more than anything. I think there's so many people that have watched that game film and are learning from it going forward, seeing how do I make sure we don't do what the 49ers did in this situation? Because nobody wants to go into overtime against the Chiefs in a Super Bowl.
Because it's over. It's over. You give it to Patrick Mahomes. Let's finish on the Chiefs then. There's Sunday Night Football on Sky Sports NFL. We'll pick this one. The Los Angeles Chargers, they're 8-4 at the Chiefs, who are 11-1. Kansas City can win a 9th straight AFC West division with a victory. But I think this is a challenge for them, Phoebe, because the Chargers defense last week, yes, we've talked about Atlanta's struggles. Actually, the Chargers defense in a lot of games this season has stepped up and played well. So I think this is a tough one, even though it's in Arrowhead, Sunday Night Football. It's a tough one for Mahomes and the Chiefs.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I think this is challenging. The weird thing, the respectful thing, I guess, that the Chiefs bring is that every single team who plays you are playing you like you're a Super Bowl team and like it's their Super Bowl. So the Chargers are going to play you to the highest level they possibly can because it's an honor to beat you. And they're going to come out with things that they may not normally do because they know they've got to be able to get points on the Chiefs. We saw that with the Raiders. I mean, for me, ultimately, this is not sustainable for the Chiefs to be living on the edge of your seat. Imagine that emotional come down after every single game when you're so hyped up, you're about to lose the game, and a snap is fumbled or a field goal is blocked. I mean, I don't see how you continue this, and I think you're right. The Chargers defense could really take advantage of this and shut down the run game and also Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think you're right about everyone gives the Chiefs the best game. Like, I don't think the same Raiders team turns up in Tampa Bay this weekend. I just don't
Not
think
at all.
that's what you have to deal with when you're a champion. I guess the concern is the Chargers offense has been sort of stuttering the last couple of weeks. Let's pick this one. I'll tell you what, I'll let you go first. I boldly picked first on a few of these.
You did. I'm so proud. Oh, this is a good one, actually.
Well, I've written mine down already, so I'm not going to change it because I've just written a picks column for NFL.com. So my column has been filed. So my pick is already out in the public domain. So I'm just saying.
Okay. I mean, I went for Raiders last week to beat Chiefs, and it almost happened. This could happen. I mean, I think you're right. Offensively, they're not got much. Yeah, why not? Let's go Chargers. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Let's see if we can beat Neil.
Well, I'm going to really disappoint you because I also picked the Chargers to win.
Ooh, I like this though.
So
Let's go, Lad McConkey.
Yeah, I think the Chargers could. I think they can do it. I think the Chiefs, like you say, they've been riding their luck. It's interesting, is it? I think the Chiefs. We say it's not luck, and it probably isn't. You make your own luck, and you find those ways to win. But I feel like with each one of these wins where they're so close and they have a quirky thing at the end, I feel like the Chiefs lose a believer or two every time because you just think, well, actually, are you that dominant? Are you that team that can go all the way? Or are you the 2022 Minnesota Vikings who won 11 of these types of games, then got bounced in the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think if any of the teams, if any of the coaches, Harbaugh can just get that record being sent all week long and let them know, right? We have a chance to close this game out. We have a chance to be the team, the only second team to beat the Chiefs. I mean, that would be phenomenal for them. And Justin Herbert, he's got the arm. If he's at peak Herbert performance and he's able to scramble a little bit and run the ball like he has done, yeah, this could be a really interesting game. I mean, we've had so many good games. We're so lucky.
We are. This is going to be a good one on Sunday Night Football. So, just to recap, I am 2 behind you in our picks. We've gone the same with the Chargers. We've gone the same with the Bills. We've gone the same with Minnesota. Thursday night game, you've gone hometown Lions, and I've gone for a road upset for Green Bay. So I've got a chance to make up one, or I'm going to fall 3 behind.
I expect like a crying photo from Lions tonight.
All right. So, yeah, everyone enjoy week 14. We'll be in the studio from 5 o'clock on Sunday for those games. And remember, from 9 o'clock tonight and repeated at 11 o'clock on Thursday night, the in season Hard Knocks, the AFC North begins on Sky Sports. Phoebe, why don't you say goodbye to the good folks today?
Oh, thank you for the honor. Goodbye for now. We will see you all on Sunday.